District. Since 1921, providing clean and healthy drinking and irrigation water to more than 24,000 homes, farms, schools, and businesses in Nevada and Placer counties.
Interviews. I'm Eric Tome, sitting in for Paul Minicucci. This afternoon I have with me three of the driving forces behind a very exciting musical production coming to Nevada County in just a week. A week from when I speak. It may be on while you see this program. Jeannie Wood is the Executive Director of the Community Asian Theater of the Sierra, CATS.
Hi.
Peter Mason is the President of Sierra Stages, and he is the Production Manager for this grand event, which we'll talk about in just a minute.
Thanks.
And Ken Harden is the Executive Director of In Concert Sierra and the Musical Director of this event. And this event is The King and I, which will probably be the most extravagant musical produced in Nevada County, certainly since I've been here, and that's almost 40 years. There may have been things back in the 1860s and 70s, but certainly nothing in the last 40 or 50 years. And it is a major undertaking, a collaboration between the three groups whose leaders are represented here. We want to start out by giving you a hint of the musical quality of the program. Ken will talk a little bit about two of the lead singers and introduce their songs, and then we'll get into the actual details of the production, what it entails, who in the community is involved, how you can get to see it, and all those things. But let's start with the singers and what they're going to be singing.
Okay, the first singer we have with us today is Lyra Dominguez, and she plays the role of Tuptim in the production. Tuptim is a gift to the king from the king of Burma, and so she plays essentially a concubine, a slave, and she is rather a problematic character because she is beholden to the king, but she's in love with someone else. And so as we generally find at the beginning of a musical, the main characters will have a character song, something that identifies what the issues are for them in the production, in the show. And so this is certainly that for Lyra as Tuptim. She talks about the fact that she is really truly the property of the king, and yet she is in love with another man. So she'll be singing for us, My Lord and Master. Lyra.
What does he mean? What does he know?
is Jared Lee in the role of the king. And in The King and I, obviously, he's a fairly prominent character. And it's a sort of a conflicted character. This king wants to bring Siam into the modern world, and yet all of his background is with history, with the king as being the absolute ruler. Everyone answers to the king. And he's brought this English school teacher to Siam, and she has new ideas and is a very strong person as well. And of course they butt heads a little bit. And so he has his foot in one world very securely, and yet he wants to also be part of another world. So this is also the character song for the king, where he conveys to us, to the audience, what these conflicts are for him, and how in spite of being the king and being absolute and all of those things, he still is, as any human being at any time in their life, sometime in their life, is confused and not sure of things. And yet as the king, he has to be sure of everything. So this is Jared Lee as the king singing A Puzzlement.
When I was a boy, world was better spot. What was so was so. What was not was not. Now I am a man, world have changed a lot. Some things nearly so, others nearly not. There are times I almost think I am not sure of what I absolutely know. Very often find confusion in conclusion I concluded long ago. In my head are many facts that as a student I have started to procure. In my head are many facts of which I wish I was more certain. I was sure. Is a puzzlement. Shall I join with other nations in alliance? If allies are weak, am I not best alone? If allies are strong with power to protect me, might they not protect me out of all I own? Is a danger to be trusting one another. One will seldom want to do what other wishes. But unless someday somebody trusts somebody, there'll be nothing left on earth excepting fishes. There are times I almost think nobody's sure of what he absolutely knows. Everybody find confusion in conclusion he concluded long ago. And it puzzled me to learn that though a man may be in doubt of what he knows, very quickly will he fight. He'll fight to prove that what he does not know is so. Oh, sometimes I think that people going mad. Sometimes I think that people not so bad. But no matter what I think, I must go on living life. As a leader of my kingdom, I must go forth. Be father to my children and husband to each wife, etc., etc., and so forth. If my Lord in heaven, Buddha, show the way, every day I try to live another day. If my Lord in heaven, Buddha, show the way, every day I do my best for one more day. But is a puzzlement.
So that's just a hint of what we can expect.
Yes, we
There's
have a
about
wonderful
15
cast.
songs in all.
Yeah, at least that. Yeah. We have Grace Faye playing the role of Anna, the school teacher, and she's another fabulous voice, wonderful actress, and just it's very exciting to work with this caliber of performer and to be able to bring something on this level to the stage in Nevada County.
And this is the second co-production between Cats and In Concert Sierra that you've been
Well,
involved in.
the first one, Flower Drum Song, wasn't officially, but I did work as the music director on that. And,
Right.
And he became hooked.
Yeah.
And I remember after Flower Drum Song, I said, gosh, what could we do next? We floated King and I around. I said,
Yeah.
that sounds like a good idea. But
Yeah.
this year it happened.
Now, for Flower Drum Song, there was a small band.
Right. It was Flower Drum Song was interesting by comparison, even though it's a Rodgers and Hammerstein show. It was what we did was a rewrite of that show. So the music was all the same, but it was put in a completely different order, completely different story, and the music was rearranged to be more of a big band kind of a sound and almost a cabaret show feel to a lot of it. And so it was a very different ensemble from the typical orchestra that you would have with the Rodgers and Hammerstein show. This is much more traditional.
But in this case, you haven't gone for the big orchestra. You've gone to...
Well, we're actually using a piano,
Right.
a harp played on a synthesizer, and then a small ensemble of instruments. So we have different colors from the orchestra represented, but not a full orchestra.
Right.
So there's a drum, a percussionist, and Kit Bailey playing percussion, Steve Nicholson on bass, and then we have violin, cello, flute, and clarinet.
Okay,
So-
I had heard that there were two pianos involved.
Well, we were going to do that. That's a funny story. We just actually, this is how you have to be flexible and,
Right.
and ready to jump all the time in the theater world. And Ken Getz, who is part of Sierra Stages, is the artistic director. He and I are co-music directors for this production, and we're playing the two pianos. As we got and began to work on the arrangements that come from Rodgers and Hammerstein of the two piano music, we really didn't like them at all. We didn't feel that they were well arranged, that they really brought to the show what could be for two pianos. So we decided to scrub the two pianos. The harp part is a much more interesting orchestral part, so Ken Getz is going to play the harp part, and I'll be at one piano, and then the ensemble along with it. So
And as I remember, just 6 days ago, there were two pianos.
there were two pianos at the
And
theater.
one of them has vanished.
Yeah,
2
yeah.
days ago, there were two pianos.
There were, yeah. Yeah.
So this just shows how even with something that is over 50 years old, going on 60 years old, every new production has new challenges, and
Right.
and you think you know you've got it worked out, but there's always something.
Right, and
something
you
that
always
will
have to be ready to be flexible and make things work. So, and it's always more of a challenge in the spaces that we perform in Nevada County because we don't have a theater with an orchestra pit. So it's a challenge to make things work so that the music is very evident, the ensemble, and because that's part of the show, that's part of what people expect and come to see, and yet you don't want it visually, physically in the way of what's going on the stage. So
Well, we
we
had to
always
pull
have to
up
accommodate
40
that.
chairs, right?
We actually we pulled out quite a few seats, and then we actually had built a platform for the two pianos to level them and have everything stable, and that was too high. So we actually went in the same day that the second piano went away. We actually went back in and tore out the platform and started over, and had to set things up differently. So.
Now, I know that you have to leave in about 2 minutes, Ken, but I'd like to, since this is a three-part collaboration, I'd like to just hear a little bit from you what your part, aside from your own talents as music director, that as the executive director and artistic director, or both,
Just artistic.
just artistic,
Yeah.
of In Concert Sierra. This is an organization that's been around for 55 years, but has recently changed its name. People once thought of it as Twin Cities Concert Association, and I guess you've greatly expanded what you do.
We have.
So tell us a few things about that, and then we'll let you go.
Okay, thank you. We still have our main series of concerts, which has been true for many, many years. A number of years ago, we went to a format where our concerts are always on the third Sunday, so we call that our third Sunday series. And that, as we were talking about just before the show, is about 8 concerts out of the year. And then we have a series of special concerts that we present. We have house concerts. We have special events. We incorporated the Sierra Master Chorale under our umbrella a couple of years ago, so that added some more concerts to the series. So we now present about 20 or 21 concerts over the course of a season. We're very excited this month. This is kind of our celebration of the piano month at In Concert Sierra. On the 20th, on the Sunday, which is the reason on the poster there it says no show.
Right.
I'll be at In Concert Sierra that day. We have Dee Wu, who is an American pianist, young lady, beautiful young lady. If you go on our website, inconcertsierra.org, you'll see the banner on that is a beautiful picture of her. She'll be presenting a program of Ravel and Debussy, and she was a recent medalist in the Van Cliburn competition, which is a big piano competition here in the States. And then on the 30th of this month, we have a pianist coming all the way from Russia. He is one of the top pianists in Russia right now. He's touring with the St. Petersburg Philharmonic. He'll be performing on Monday night, March 28th, with the St. Petersburg Orchestra at Davies Hall in San Francisco. And then he's coming up here on the 30th to play a solo recital for us. And it's the only solo recital that he'll be doing in Northern California at all, right here in Grass Valley. And he's doing a program of all Chopin and Rachmaninoff. And a very prominent pianist recently said about, his name is Nikolai Lugansky, and another very prominent pianist recently said about him, if you want to understand Chopin, you have to listen to Nikolai Lugansky play. So very, very high kudos for him. And we have a lot of other events and concerts, and you can certainly look at those on our website.
And if you throw in
coming up.
the performances of King and I, that just about doubles.
That it does, absolutely. Certainly doubles my workload, and it's been a lot of fun. I love working on musicals. I did a lot of this when I lived in LA. Still, it's one of the main things I did, and I love to have the chance to every once in a while do a musical again. It's hard to fit it in my schedule, but I sure love it.
Well, we'll let you go now.
Okay.
I know you and the singers have got to depart. That's why we started with you.
Yeah.
But it got all our ears perked up, I think, and our energy going a little bit. And now I'll talk some more with Jeannie and Peter about how this production came about and how it's proceeding. I was quite amazed to hear the change from the 2 pianos.
Yeah, I found out yesterday. I said, what? It's in all my publicity. Oh, well, it is being flexible, like Ken says. You know, it's like you never know. You just have to bite the bullet and make it work.
And this is a very interesting collaboration because Katz, over the last 17 years, has basically done 1 performance every year.
Still doing 1.
We just heard how many In Concert Sierra is doing, 24. And Sierra Stagers usually does, well, this year you're doing 4?
Yeah, we're doing 4 shows, but we've only been around for 3 years, so Jeannie probably knows something that we don't know.
No.
Although a lot of, you're getting more ambitious. You started out with a lot of essentially concert versions of musicals or of selections of songs from various musical singers, composers.
We started, like I said, we started 3 years ago, and we tried to build, slowly and make sure that we were doing things correctly. So the first, what we did 3 years ago was a series of 3 musicals. We did the whole musicals, actually. It was Sound of Music, a Rodgers and Hammerstein favorite, and How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and She Loves Me. But we did the whole shows, but we kind of did it in a more limited setting without a full set. And Jeannie, actually, and Lisa Moon and Hawk were in The Sound of Music, I recall.
I was a nun.
If you can believe
Totally
Jeannie was
out
a
of
nun.
character.
So yeah, we started that way, but last year we did Into the Woods as a co-production
Which was a wonderful.
with the Center for the Arts, and that was a really good experience, and full set, costumes, and orchestra. And this year, after we're done with The King and I, working with Cats, we are doing A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum at the Nevada Theater in July, which will also be a full production. That's going to be directed by Sandra Rockman. And then in October, we're doing a more recent musical called the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. And we're doing that at the Miners Foundry, and that'll be directed by Bob Rossman, who's on our board.
In this particular case, it was probably Cats that took the lead in deciding it was going to be The King and I.
Well, I've always loved this musical. I love musicals anyway, and after Flower Drum Song, it was like, oh my God, it was so hard, so difficult, and they're so good at it, and then during Flower Drum, we've talked about The King and I with Ken and other people, but nothing ever came of it, and then after last year's production of Snow Falling on Cedars, I took a survey of the people who attended, and over 700 surveys. I was tallying them, and one question was, what do you want to see more of? And a lot of people wanted to see more musicals, which is not surprising. I said, well, this is interesting. And then some people started mentioning The King and I. I said, you know what? I should pay attention to what people are asking for, So then when we had our board meetings, we were discussing what to do this year. And I said, well, how about The King and I? And the people were saying, oh, God, it's just too big. How can we do that? How about something easier? And then so anyway, it began a whole process. And then and I said, well, let's look at how we can make it work. And then, when you're doing the right thing, the universe supports you. And we get a call from Ken Hardin. I don't know how, but he called us, or maybe, anyway, so we started this conversation about a collaborative effort. And then he suggested Sierra Stages. So we started meeting during the summer, about once a month, to look at how we could come together, pulling all our resources, and make this happen. So we're making it happen. So, and they're great at musicals. We've been around, we have longevity, and I think our organization is good. And of course, with Ken Hardin's background, being the artistic director in Concert Sierra, and his musical background, it just all works, and it's working. And I'm really excited that it's finally coming together, and it's still a lot of work.
And this involves not only people from the three organizations, but a cast of 30.
Right.
And people who some are professional, some are semi-professional, some are amateur, some have performed.
Have never been on stage before.
Right. And some have performed with Cats before, some have performed with Sierra Stages before. And
it's a great mix, don't you think so?
Yeah, it's a great cast. I've been to many rehearsals in the last few weeks, and Jared, who you heard earlier, is actually a professional actor, and Lyra is, I wouldn't say an amateur by any means, but she's not a professional actress, but she's done a lot of shows, and she's really wonderful, and opera as well. Sharon Hines plays Lady Tiang,
right,
who's also done a lot of local shows, and I'm going to forget someone. Ron Sasaki plays Lunta opposite Lyra's Tup Tim. And,
this is the second show.
Grace.
And Grace, who was actually our witch in Into the Woods last year, is Mrs. Anna.
Yeah.
So, and then there's a supporting ensemble of dancers and singers, and then there's 11 kids, I guess.
Right.
For those of you probably know, in The King and I, he had lots of kids, and
the kids are wonderful.
They're really cute and wonderful.
They've been really disciplined. They've been rehearsing. Everyone's been rehearsing for the past 2.5 months, 5 days a week, 3 days, 5 days a week, 3 hours per day, and it's been really. I think it's been a wonderful experience because I think they're really having a good time, but they have to juggle their whole lives, around. It's been, and their whole family has had to, drive them everywhere and all that. So it hasn't been easy, but I think it's been rewarding for the most part.
Yeah, what's really interesting with the kids, I mean, for a lot of them, it's the first time they've ever done theater.
Right.
And, they're learning and they're having a good time. And, they learn the discipline that it takes to rehearse a show as well. But it's just been fun watching them kind of deal with all of that.
Yeah, some of them have been in school plays, and they know, and they say this is not anything like a school play. And the fact that they are working with adults, little Annika, she's one day wants to sing like Lyra and Grace. She says, and that's great that they have these role models in this show, to work with adults and teenagers and young adults and kids. It's from age 6 to 60 some odd is our range, this multi-generational production.
And it is, as I remember, I remember seeing the movie almost more than 50 years ago, and I remember quite a few of the songs. There's 3 or 4 songs that have become standards. Right. And then some of the others, like Puzzlement, I did not remember from having seen it. But it's a complex story. It's not a normal boy meets girl love story.
Right.
It's not just a straightforward story, because there's things that happen in it that sort of leave you, I think at the end, you're not quite sure what's going to happen with all these people.
Well,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It has I'm not going to tell you what the ending is, but it has a very atypical ending for a musical. And it's a very interesting play. Rodgers and Hammerstein did a wide range of works, from very funny things to very serious things. And this is on the serious end, I would say. But it also explores sort of how the cultures of East and West meet. It explores the role of women in society. And it's slavery, and a lot of social issues kind of embedded into the show.
Listen, what I remember best from the movie from 50-some years ago, when I was in my early teens, was the ballet based on Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yes.
Which they call the Small House of Uncle Thomas. Is that?
That's correct. That's right.
And it really stuck with me, the scenes of the chase across the ice. I've never read Uncle Tom's Cabin, but it's my strongest image of it comes from seeing it produced in Thailand in the 1860s, or some idea of how it might have been produced back then.
So I should go ahead.
No,
I was going to mention before we forgot. The creative forces on The King and I, in addition to Ken Hardin, who's the musical director. The director is Leslie Rivers. The choreographer and dance director is George Jane. You're talking about the Small House of Uncle Thomas ballet, reminding me about George. Pam Hodges has done a really, really beautiful set. And Chris Christensen is doing our lighting. Saban LeBlanc is doing the costumes, which are fabulous. Right. There are so many costumes. I think Flower Drum Song had hundreds of costumes.
We had 160 some odd costumes in Flower Drum. This might exceed that.
I'm sure it's very close, and they're all very sumptuous Thai, 1860s costumes. So they're really beautiful. It's amazing to see them.
And Tom Taylor is our technical director.
Tom's our technical director. And who else?
I don't know.
I'm sure we're forgetting someone. You always do that.
Yesterday, I was briefly on a show for KVMR. It was International Women's Day, and so we focused on Anna's role, because she was a woman ahead of her time in the 1860s, going to a foreign land and helping the king become more modern. But in so doing, they contribute to each other, And I know that in Hollywood, in the movie, it's implied that they loved each other. They probably did in a different way, but not in a romantic way, but in a way of just contributing to each other's I guess, growth. He wanted to be more Western, and then through him, she understood his culture more and had a wider perspective of the Eastern world. So.
And we do have some photographs
Yes.
from the production of some of the main characters, and I think this might be a good time to look
Great.
at some of those.
Great.
You remember the sequence?
I do.
Jeannie does.
Well-
Jeannie does everything.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
no,
there's
no,
Cats.
no. There-
The Cats logo. And we'll
will be. These
See.
are photo shoot photos that were taken by David Wong in February. So, and we didn't have all. Okay, here's a photo of Grace, who plays Anna, and Grant Hempy, who plays Louis, and Hawk Joa is the Kralahome. The Kralahome is the king's right-hand person, and he meets her at the dock when she arrives in Siam. So this is that situation. And I love the costumes. And this is a photo of Anna and Louis meeting the king for the first time. And so he gets to check her out, and they're checking him out. So. And Tuptim, the concubine gift from Burma, has been delivered to the king, and he checks her out, and she couldn't believe that Anna couldn't believe that Tuptim is a gift. So there's the dynamics of the three character here. Anna is very supportive and I guess very supportive of Tuptim and her plight. And the king is, well, here's just another one. I get them all the time, so. And the two together, they bond. They sort of bond in the show, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Tuptim.
Because Tuptim is new to the court as well.
Right.
She's a gift, as you said, from the king of Burma. Mm-hmm. And they're both outsiders for the court.
Right. And here's our Anna with some of the children. We have Louis, we have who is played by Grant, and Annika, the little girl to your left, and Soji on your right, bottom right, and Prince Chulalongkorn, Andrew Sasaki, top right. And he is in the play with his dad, Ron Sasaki. So it's nice to have a little family affair going on in the show here. And they're probably here singing Getting to Know You, one of the popular songs from the show. Another photo of them, the teacher and the students. And Lun Ta is played by Ron Sasaki. This is Tuptim's lover from Burma. And she misses him and has to leave him because now she belongs to the king. So this is their moment together. And Hawk Joa trying to explain to the king, oh, what's he explaining here? What do you think he's explaining,
I don't know,
Peter?
but he has a very surprised expression. It looks
Yeah.
like.
So,
The Kralahome is like the prime minister, I
Oh,
assume,
okay.
like sort of in charge of the court, does all the king's work.
Huck is also on our board. He's our treasurer, and he's done a number of community plays. And Jarrett has been the king. This is his fourth time. He's done this role 3 other times in the Bay Area, so he's very at home in his role here. And we're very pleased to have him. There he is in his pose. A lot of people, when they think of the king, they think of Yul Brynner, who made this role so iconic. And when we were having auditions, people were saying, oh, well, I can shave my head. I said, you don't need to shave your head, So, but it's interesting that people think that way, But he's our king, and we're glad to have him.
Ken Hardin has already shaved his.
Yes,
You only need one
that's right.
on the stage. So I was present at some of the auditions, and they were certainly the most elaborate auditions I've seen Cats do, I think. They were more private, I think. Each person went on
Oh, yeah.
separately into the room. Unlike many auditions, everybody sits around and gets to see
Yeah.
everybody else perform.
That's true.
And in this case, it was just 3 or 4 people watching each performer one by one.
Hmm.
And it seems that it was more rigorous than others in the past, and you've managed to come up with quite an impressive cast.
I think we had did we have almost 100 people audition? We had a lot of kids. A lot of kids. And all the guys wanted to be the king. And all the women wanted to be Anna. And we had a wonderful selection, wonderful selection of men for the king and women for Anna, and a lot of kids to choose from. But our director wanted, she didn't want 20 kids. And now we know why. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, not that kids are difficult. It's just, the big cast is a difficult thing to work with. But we're working through it.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult, I guess, in the sense that there's 30 people and you have to kind of coordinate and schedule for that. But also, just space-wise in the Nevada Theater, having a cast of 30 people is probably the largest cast that's been on that stage recently. And it's a beautiful old theater, but it's a very small stage and limited backstage areas, and the dressing rooms are downstairs. So it becomes, at some point, it's a traffic issue as well to have 30 people in a cast, or more than 30 people.
Are there ever all 30 on stage at once?
Yes.
At the end.
Yeah, almost all 30.
Yeah.
Not everyone's quite on at the end.
Yeah, okay.
And you were talking before about George Jane, the choreographer. The dance scenes that I remember mostly involved adults, but there's a number of dance scenes with the kids, or not?
Well, getting to know you, there's choreography there. And in the ballet, we have some teenagers involved,
Yeah.
and young adults. And adults.
And then there's, in The King and I, you might not remember, but in the movie there's the procession, the march of the procession of the children, where they all come
Oh,
and
that's so
parade
cute.
in front of the king and Mrs. Anna as the king introduces his kids to her, and that's a big musical number that's choreographed as well.
It's choreographed really cute, yeah.
In general, musicals are family entertainment, and this is a situation where you're trying to appeal to a lot of children as well as adults, and you have a number of student matinees.
Yes, we do. We have 2 student matinees, March 25th and April 1st, I believe. The 25th, I think it's pretty full. April 1st, I think there are a few spaces left. But call 530-273-6362 and ask for Lisa Moon, our artistic director, who's also our student matinee coordinator, and she'll know what's available. These are 9:30 a.m. shows.
On a Friday morning.
Friday morning, yeah.
And when are the other shows?
The other shows, we open next Thursday, the 17th, and we go run for 19 shows, and we close on April the 16th.
But they are what days of the week?
Oh, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, except for March 20th, because Ken's not available.
Because he'll be with it in Concert Sierra.
And Thursday shows are at 7. The Friday, Saturday evening shows are at 8. And the Sunday matinees are at 2. And we have one Saturday matinee on April the 16th. That day we close, we have 2 shows, a 2 p.m. and an 8 p.m.
Okay. And there's also a special performance for the Friends of the Library.
Yes, Friends of the Nevada County Libraries. We're doing a benefit for them on Friday, March the 25th. And those tickets are available directly at any library branch.
So that's the case where the library bought all the tickets?
Right, and then they're selling it themselves.
And any extra money that accrues goes straight to the library?
Right, so support our libraries, yes. And what else? Let's see.
There's lots to say.
Next Thursday, the 17th, is a dress rehearsal. All tickets are $10. And then the day after that, the 18th, it's a preview, and all tickets are $15. And then the prices go up after that.
Now, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the organizations behind this. As we've said before, CATS has been around for 17 years. You did do a few musicals in early years.
Oh, yes. We started in the 1990s with Gold Country Productions under the late Nelda Honey. And we did The King and I and Flower Drum Song. And I say to myself, I don't recall it being that complicated. But you know what? We've grown. I mean, and there's, it's been a gradual process. And then I was in it. I was Lady T Yang. And I said, you know what? I just don't recall it being that difficult, but it is. This production is going to be very, very polished and very professional. So, and doing musicals are very difficult. So maybe I don't know when we'll do another one. We're going to definitely take a break.
Yeah, because Flower Drum Song and this are both huge undertakings.
They are. Yeah.
Now the Sierra Stages people, did you all come up together?
We all come up together. No. Ken Getz, who's the assistant musical director on this show, and I moved up here 5 years ago or so. And then also on our board we have Bob Rossman and Janet Rossman, and they happened to move up from the Bay Area about 3 or 4 years ago at the same time. And Stephen Wellman and Kim Wellman are on our board, and they live out in Lake Wildwood. So we all work together on a couple of shows at the Center for the Arts in the Black Box Theater in the back. We did World Goes Round, which was a Candor and Ebb review, and Side by Sondheim 4 years ago. And we just worked together well. And at the time that we started, there really wasn't a lot of, other than Cats, there wasn't a lot of community theater going on. Foothill was still around, but Community Players was doing a couple of things. But we just saw the need at that time to do theater. And since that, I mean, there's been this explosion of community theater.
Oh, my God.
Which is amazing and wonderful.
You can't see all the shows in one weekend.
Yeah, I know, but it's also daunting as well. But we just got together and said, we should try to do a community theater. We met Jeannie and Lisa and other folks at Cats, and that they're great. They're a 501c3, right, organization. They have a mission. They're very focused on the shows. They have really high standards. I thought Snow Falling in the Cedars was really the most wonderful thing I've seen in a long time. We just sort of said, they can do it, we can do it too. We have a little bit focused more on musicals than straight plays, but we did a comedy last year, Lend Me a Tenor, which was directed by Diane Federle.
That was funny.
Really, really funny show. And right now we're doing a straight play called Old Explorers at the Off Center Stage. But the musicals, we like doing musicals. We have a good sense, I think, of doing them. It's a mix. And working on The King and I is just really wonderful. We get to work with the Cats people. We get to work with Ken Harden and In Concert Sierra people. And it's a way to kind of collaborate. It's a little bit of an experiment. It's a way to collaborate and see how three organizations together can work together and produce something that's even better than each of them individually could do, I guess.
Well, one thing for me that I've gotten out of it is, I still am like the Lone Ranger. I just do things. But one thing that I need to be careful about is like, okay, I need to check with the collaborators. I got to, get their input and get their feedback, even though I've just done it myself all the time for so long. It's like, oh my God, I need to check in. So I think I'm better at that now. So that's one of something that I've gotten out of it, and it's been wonderful working with Sierra Stages and In Concert Sierra, because I think we have the same drive, same vision, same level, of professionalism, and we work well together. Yeah.
The reason I asked if you all moved up at the same time or together was that all of a sudden. Well, I think I knew many of the people in local theater, a lot of whom were clustered around either Cats or Foothill Theater Company or a few others like Legacy, and there have been others that have come and gone. And all of a sudden there were these 5 or 6 people I'd never heard of before, never seen, and they were doing fantastic productions, and a lot of them for such a new group. And then now you're right in the swing of things.
Yeah, well, thank you. We just, it was basically, let's put on a show kind of thing. We just got together, and The Center for the Arts, actually, when we started, was producing a few things. And one of the reasons we decided to form the group was they were phasing out of producing shows. They would present them or rent out the venue, but they weren't actually producing them. So that's one reason we started. And Legacy, which is also a great local company, at that time was they had just started and done A Few Good Men, I think, was the first show and on the waterfront. But they have since expanded and are doing a lot more. So then my theory is good theater promotes other good theater, and the more you have theater for people to see, the more they get used to going to theater. So it all kind of works off each other if it's good.
And we're all part of the Arts Collaborative of Nevada County. So, and that's an organization that promotes all the arts in our area, as well as in Tahoe and Reno. So the more we do, the more reasons they have to, hey, everybody, look at what's happening in our town, you know?
And if you look back a few years ago, I think everybody locally was proud of the Foothill Theater Company, which had more equity actors in it, more professionals than most of the other groups. But to a certain degree, they monopolized the Nevada theater, and you got used to seeing the same actors again and again and again. When they went under, all of a sudden, everybody else started pulling together. And I think that, good as they were, to some degree, they put a bit of a damper on some of the local theater. And now you see people, not only these three groups we're talking about, Cats, Sierra Stages, and In Concert Sierra collaborating, but you see actors and singers going from a Legacy production to a Cats production to a Sierra Stages production, and it feels much more like the community members are involved. And a much larger number. There was community theater, of course, 30 years ago, but then there was maybe 15 people or so, and now there's dozens, I'd say.
Yeah, well, what we found, I mean, we started small, and we're growing a little bit each time. But each time we have auditions, we always find new people, which is really cool. I mean, there's a lot of talented folks up here, acting-wise and music-wise. But you were in the Tempest, right?
Yes.
And like Trisha Dare, who was in the Tempest, is going to be in Forum for us in July, and Kenny Mealy, who is in Tempest, is also going to be in Forum. So, I mean, there's synergy, I think, that's created by having all these opportunities.
So, do you have other collaborations in mind?
Gosh.
Right now, we're focused on opening this show.
Really?
But yeah, I mean, I think it's worked great. So if something,
if the right project falls, and it's a good fit, I think that the fit is good. Fits our vision, fits theirs.
Okay. We've gotten a little bit off the track because it's so much fun talking about all of these things that the groups are doing together. But we really got here this afternoon to talk about the upcoming production of The King and I, which involves community Asian theater of the Sierra Stages and In Concert Sierra. And I'd like to just see if there's anything about the production that we haven't talked about.
Ooh. It's been a really learning experience for me, and I know that I've stretched to a new level personally. And when I first looked at, could we do it? How can we do it? How can we do it? And things started falling in place, and I love it. It's not, you shouldn't do it because you don't have the resources. The resources are coming in, and it still has been difficult. Hasn't been easy, but I think we're, making progress. And once you expand to a certain level, you can't go back. So I'm glad we did it. I think the community wanted it, and I like to deliver what the community wants. So, anything else?
We moved into the Nevada Theater on Monday.
Right.
And it's wonderful to see it up on the stage and to see the set come to life from the drawings that we saw like 5 or 6 months ago. But I think it's a wonderful show. The music is wonderful. The dancing is wonderful. The cast is great. I think people should come, and they will be richly rewarded by attending the show.
The tickets are selling very well, especially groups. We have Red Hatters coming, a lot of Red Hatters coming, church groups, just a lot of groups. I get phone calls every day. I want 10, I want 20. And I say, well, I don't have that many for you on that day. Choose another day. So if you don't have your tickets yet, you should get them soon. It's very popular, yeah.
And of all of Rodgers and Hammerstein's, they must have written about 10 things together. But this is certainly one of the ones that gets most frequently revived.
Often?
Yeah, often gets revived. I think The Sound of Music gets revived more.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems to be a really popular one. But King and I, and Oklahoma, and
Yeah.
they're all up there.
The classics are, people know the stories, they know the music, and yet they still come. Not only do they come, they keep coming. With Flower Drum Song, there are patrons who saw, this is my third time, Okay, it's nothing new, but they leave because it touches their heart. And what really, I'm really understanding about what arts do, and arts touch the heart. And because it's not something you understand, it's something that moves you, and music does that. And you have a great story, great acting, the story stays with you, the music stays with you. People will leave the show humming those songs.
And dancing those dances.
Yes,
maybe.
and dancing too.
So we just have a little bit of time to go. In case somebody is tuning in toward the end of this, I'd like to run through who the principals are, what they can expect to see in this production of The King and I. And
well, the principal, Jarrett Lee plays the king, and Grace Faye is Anna. Lara Dominguez is Tuptim. Ron Sasaki is Lunta.
Sharon Hines.
Who? Oh, Sharon Hines is Lady Tiang. Hak Choa is Tukrala Home. And we have, 12 kids. And the Prince Chulalongkorn is Andrew Sasaki, the son of Ron Sasaki. And
It's directed by Leslie Rivers.
That's right.
And musical directed by Ken Harden. And the dance direction is by George Jane.
and production management by Peter Mason.
Yeah, that's a really small part of it.
No, it isn't.
No, one of the things, and I would say one of the great advantages of the collaboration we're seeing is I think you've gotten the reputation as being maybe the best production manager in the area at this time. And
Yes.
and so it's good that you can work on other productions besides strictly Sierra Stages ones.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, putting production manager is a very undefined job, I think. I mean, you kind of try to keep things moving and keep things together. But it's really fun to put it together. It's fun to work with the folks at Katz and fun to work with Ken Harden. But, yeah.
I mean, he not only is doing production management for our show, but he has his own theater company. And he's got 2 other shows to worry about right now, as well as one coming up. So he's one busy fellow.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it.
And of course, there are sudden changes, like the fact that with about a week to go before opening, you have completely revised the musical
The
background.
music.
Oh, it's not a complete revision. That we had done. It's kind of interesting. What we had done Sound of Music a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and we used a 2-piano arrangement from Rodgers and Hammerstein, and it was really quite wonderful. I mean, it was interesting arrangements. You know, they reduced the orchestration down for 2 pianos, so there were interesting things going on all the time musically. So I think we and Ken Harden figured, well, the 2-piano arrangement for The King and I would also be interesting. And it wasn't. They played it and they figured, well, let's try it, and it just didn't work out up to the standards musically that we wanted. So it didn't change a lot. I mean, we basically have the same ensemble that Ken talked about earlier. It's just that instead of the second piano, we're using a harp arrangement that Ken Getz is going to play on the synthesizer. So it wasn't a huge shift. It just was like, okay, it just reduced the number of pianos in the theater, basically.
And I think this might be musically one of the more difficult scores in that they're trying to, Rodgers and Hammerstein, or Rodgers in particular, was trying to give an Oriental feel, but he tried incorporating elements of Thai music, or this is what I've read, and it did not work. So they had to get the Oriental feel without actually switching scales, say. In something like Flower Drum Song, it was a lot easier because it was not Chinese music, it was Chinatown music. Mm-hmm. But in this case, you're trying to give the feel of a totally different culture, but without directly drawing on the music.
Yeah, I'm not enough of a musician to probably answer that intelligently. I think it's pretty much the Rodgers music is very Broadway. In the orchestration and the color, there's a lot of the feel of Asian music. But yeah, I think it's a pretty standard kind of Broadway score with maybe a little influence from the East.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This has been Nevada County Interviews. I'm Eric Thome. I've been talking with Jeannie Wood, the Executive Director of Community Asian Theater of the Sierra, Peter Mason, who's the President of Sierra Stages, and Ken Harden, who had to leave a little early. He's the Artistic Director of In Concert Sierra. And the three groups together will be producing The King and I at the Nevada Theater starting next Thursday, which is
March 17th.
March 17th. So go see it.
Seventh-day Adventist Church, Grass Valley, provider of amazing facts, religious weekend programming, located at 12889 Osborne Hill Road in Grass Valley.